Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wild beasts as usual. It's all about the mask tonight, social distancing and keeping everyone safe through the computer. But really, it's just bloody hot, so that can come off. Welcome. Quick swig of the juice. I hope everyone is doing fantastic this evening. Tonight we're going to travel off to Vietnam, and this trip was in 2013. So I've been working through this today, and I've spent the afternoon putting images together and looking through all of the images that I really haven't looked at for a very long time, apart from the portraits that I take out to use in other talks or projects. So for me, this has been a massive trip down, I guess, memory lane as we are motorbiking, but also a bit of a nightmare because you kind of forget so much over time that, places, names of people, names of your own motorbike. I've just found out the name of my own motorbike, so that's how wild this is going to be. But the way it's going to work is I'm going to talk you through a quick slideshow of images, and then I'll play a video towards the end. So I'm not sure exactly how long this will last, but if you are here, Christine Porter is here. That is great news, all the way from Canada. But this is a trip that took place in 2013. I was living in Australia at the time, and I'd been working in the outback, running a liquor store, trying to save up enough money to be able to go on a trip to Asia. So once that money was saved up, I spoke to my friend James. He was cycling through Asia and Malaysia, and we were going to meet in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. The plan was then we were going to buy motorbikes, and we were going to travel from the south all the way to the north to Hanoi. One of our friends, Joey, was going to join us, so I just needed to book a ticket, store all of my stuff in Melbourne in Australia, and then head off to Vietnam on this adventure, which I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't even know how to ride a motorbike. I don't think I'd actually ever ridden a motorbike before, so it was an interesting decision, and I'm not even sure at what point I told mum and dad what I was up to. So this trip, let me flick into the presentation, straight into there, so I'm here in the top corner. This trip is not necessarily about brilliant photographs. This trip is, for me, it was quite fast paced. It was the first time I travelled like this. And for those of you that travel on motorbikes, you know that you see the road, you see however many hundreds of feet in front of you, and then you just see all the countryside, everything just going past, I guess, unless you're riding a Harley Davidson or just cruising around having a look. And that's probably if you know how to ride a bike and you're not shitting yourself. So for me, I didn't know how to ride a bike and I was crapping myself for the first 3 days. So for those first 3 days, really not many pictures happened, but a lot of learning took place and a lot of really bad dreams. So this is where we start the trip, and it's always where I start every trip, and probably where you start many holidays, is packing your bag. Now, traveling through Australia for 2 years, I had quite a lot of bags. So this trip, I needed to bring everything down into a very small bag. So this is only a 33-litre bag, and it fitted all of my clothes. So like 2 pairs of underwear, a t-shirt, and a pair of shorts. Pretty much it. Going to Asia, it's going to be hot. It's going to be great. No need for anything else. There's a small camera in there, and all of these pictures were taken on that small camera. A little Canon G1X, and it's great. It's got manual controls. I'd only had it for a couple of weeks at this point, but like I say, this was back in 2013, so it was only a couple of years after I started thinking, right, I want to do this photography lark. I've been away for most of those 2 years and was trying to learn through the internet, through magazines, but just generally taking pictures of stuff that I liked, and that's how you really get into photography is just finding the things you like. And for me, it was a part of my trip. It was on my shoulder, and I would just take pictures all the way along. So this is the bag I took. This is all I took with me. And then, boom, this is a map of Vietnam. Now, you're not going to learn a lot about Vietnam during this trip. I'm sorry about that, but I've forgotten a lot of the things, a lot of the places. I can't even remember how many dong there are to a quid, but all of these lines are pretty much where we stopped, and every couple of feet in between is pretty much where the bikes broke down. So you can tell what sort of trip we had. Amazing. So let's crack into it. And this is where I like to start. So I flew in from Australia. James picked me up from the airport on a tiny scooter, and I was thrust into the melee, into the chaos that is Saigon. More motorbikes than I'd ever seen in my life. More hooters, more horns, more noise. And I don't quite know how we both stayed on the bike, but I guess James had been cycling through Asia, so he knew a little bit more about the roads than I did. And very soon I learned that if you get eye contact with somebody, you've already crashed. So just look straight ahead, go where you're going, be decisive, you'll be fine. That's all well and good if you know how to ride a motorbike. So on day 2, we went out and we were hunting for motorbikes. Joey was going to fly in the next day. So our job was to source 3 motorbikes. Now, thousands of people do these trips every year. Top Gear have done this trip, and this is probably why we really wanted to do it, to see what it was like. So these bikes are everywhere, and they get shunted up and down Vietnam every day of the week. They're easy to repair if you know how, but luckily everywhere you break down, somebody is there to help you fix them. So there's not really too much worry about carrying spanners or pumps or anything like that, because it's pretty accessible to get your bike fixed. So this is the mother on the left, the son in the middle. He's about 12 to 14, I would have thought. And this is some muppet that's never ridden a motorbike before. He's got a vest on, pair of shorts on, and that's about it. So this is the lad actually teaching me how to ride a bike for the first time, and never sat on a motorbike before in my life. So you'll see me in the background there next to the guy in red. Those are my first ever laps on a bike, and believe me, it was probably going like the clappers. So the bike is actually, I believe, a Honda Win. It's about 100cc. Mr. Harvey, if that's right, chuck it in the comments. I've just seen, yes, I was just about old enough to ride the bike. So on the way back, on the right side, you'll see that's me pointing at the bike saying, I'll have this one. No idea if it's any good. Just the lad needed to fix up a few bits on the bike. And then I was the owner of a bike. I didn't have to sign any paperwork, just gave him, I think it was maybe $200. Boom, there you go. There's my ticket through Vietnam. Probably not the safest ticket I've ever bought. But as he passed me the money, I said, hold on, let me grab a quick picture. And so this is one of the first portraits first considered portraits I took. But at the time, I didn't necessarily think, oh, wow, great, I'll start taking loads of portraits. But throughout this trip, the most favourite pictures I have are of the people. So within a day, Joey arrived, and that's James on the right-hand side. We'd all got our bikes. We'd all gone and bought these fancy helmets that actually wouldn't, if an egg hit it, it would probably knock you out. So they're just for show. So Joey went for pink, I went for white and blue, and James had the black with the white star. So we always knew who we were, wherever we are traveling around. And this is probably not the first picture I took out on the road, but when you leave Saigon, you are on the main road, which is almost like the M5. So you've got huge lorries. We're trying to navigate where we're going. And if you see in the last picture here, James has actually got a little iPod, and he's the one navigating. So it's probably really why I don't know half the places, because James was ahead of us most of the time. Joey and I were messing around taking pictures, and James did an amazing job of steering us through Vietnam. You know, he asked us about a few places we wanted to go, but really he was just like, nah, let's crack on. So once you escape off the main roads, these are the types of roads you get. You know, just a bit wider than single roads. You're cruising along, not so busy. But when they do get busy, you've got heavy trucks coming down. So this is one of the first roads we did up a mountain. And Chris Powell, you said nice safety gear. On the second night, we went and bought jeans and long shirts because shorts and t-shirts just weren't going to cut it. We thought if we are going to fall off, we may as well fall off in style. And although it was baking hot, having jeans and the long sleeve somehow gave us a bit of courage that we didn't have before. The rucksacks were tied to the back of the bikes with a small tarpaulin over the top, so we had pretty much good freedom and a little bit of a backrest whilst we were sitting in the saddle for 12 hours a day. So at the top of that hill, you know, was probably my first significant memory of the trip. And this guy called us into his coffee shop, and so we just chuck our bikes on the side, and you know, we have a cup of tea and a cookie. And so this is Joey relaxing, having a cup of tea and a cookie. And then we've got Tane. And so Tane was really keen to show us this book of all the travellers that he'd snagged on top of the hill. He could hear them coming up the hill because of the noise of the bikes. And because most people were not technically proficient, the noises were no doubt incredible. And you could probably hear the clutches from miles off just going absolutely crazy. So Tane was a very cool guy, one of the first people we really connected with, and he was really excited to show us this, show us his book, and in that book had lots of people's notes and also small passport pictures. So we left passport pictures. So if you ever get called in by Tane, have a look in his book, and there'll be 3 mug shots in there of 3 English motorbikers. But again, it was one of the first places I took a really considered portrait. So when these moments happened, I was really keen to capture them. Other interesting things, you know, I like to shoot people, places and things. And these things are goldfish. And they're basically hung in bags like you would get at a fairground. All different sized fish. And they are attached to the back of a motorbike. And people drive around with them and sell them at markets and stuff. So not great for the fish, but make a good photo. And like I said at the start, this trip wasn't about me being a brilliant photographer. This is about taking pictures of things on the road. And part of putting this together is to show you that seven years ago, I was just out snapping away like a happy lad. No pressure, just, oh, that looks cool. Yeah, that looks cool. No real consideration for framing. One shot of each thing maybe. Perhaps trying to use manual when the light was too bad, but just 7 years ago I was just out having fun with the camera, and I'm really still trying to just have fun with the camera, and to have fun with the camera I just have to put myself in interesting places. And on the right there's a lady with some bugs made out of balloons, obviously to sell to the kids, but I didn't buy one. And that's in a place called I believe it's Dalat. So I do have all of the names written down here, but I'm not going to tell you half of them because Phan Thiet, Nha Trang, Pleiku, Hoi An, you know, that's where we're going. And this is all happening on the 7th of the 6th, 2013. That's when the trip began. And overall, it was just about 2,000 kilometers over a couple of weeks. That's the technical stuff out of the way. These are the views. So these are the types of views when you get into the mountains. So you go inland away from the main road, and you go up through all of these mountains and then down through the other side, and it really is amazing and, you know, quite breathtaking to see it. But I was still trying to concentrate on the motorbike, so we're only a few days in here. But again, you can see the photography is not brilliant. I was just snapping away and going, come on, let's crack on, let's keep moving. Um, so we've got, this is probably not even the first breakdown, but this is a typical day. We would wake up, motorbike for a bit, break down for a long time, and then crack on again. But as I said at the beginning, there's small makeshift garages everywhere because every one of these bikes break down. So it's handy to have these families on the side of the road. And at those points, it's where you really get in and you connect with the locals. And I think if you always travel on the bus, you miss that opportunity. So for us, every time we broke down, it was an opportunity to stop, have a look around, and enjoy the people that make the place and the country. So let's ping this on. Not sure how much I enjoyed meeting this guy, but he did have a small restaurant and he did cook us some rice. And the reason we didn't have anything other than rice is because in the back room he was preparing a dog. And in Vietnam they do eat dog. And in Vietnam I did eat dog. Admitted it to the World Wide Webs. And not through choice. I didn't order woof woof off the menu. Me saying woof woof was no woof woof. I want chicken. But sometimes you had a noodle soup and you could tell that meat was like nothing you ever tasted before. But anyway, we just had rice and Pepsi at this guy's place and it was nice to get a picture with him. Moving along the road, you see all sorts of crazy things. And I've seen a lot of people on bikes, but these lads were having a good time. And the second I took this picture, they basically sped off and basically jumped the bike down the bank on the right side. I wouldn't do that on my own on my bike, but 5 of them, they're obviously keen and good riders, so off they went. But having a small camera with me on my side all the time, it allows me to stop, have a quick chat with them, and then make the picture. So it was a lot of fun. You connecting with people on the road. So it's almost as if you're traveling along this 15 to 20 foot wide roller coaster through Vietnam, and then occasionally you get to stop and say hi to people within the margins of the road, and that's great fun. Another meeting along the way was these kids that were making and flying their own kites. You'll be able to see the girl on the right hand side legging it down the main road. There's power lines everywhere, so if they do manage to get the string out enough, they're toast. But we hung around with these guys for about 10 minutes, and again, just trying to make pictures. I had ideas, I had things that I wanted to try and shoot, maybe slow shutter speed, but really I don't want to interrupt them too much. And you're literally passing through, so you haven't got a huge amount of time to sit there and build these relationships. So unlike my stuff in Uganda, where I've got plenty of time now, and it's time over years, this was 5-10 minutes of, hey, let's have some fun, can I take your picture? So the relationship is very different. Oops. Chris Harvey, if you can tell me what's gone wrong here, because I didn't really know at the time, but I'm pretty sure it was the bearings had seized up in the back wheel, which had caused everything to just pop and then not work anymore. But luckily, somebody knew how to fix it, and this little shed wasn't far away, so we managed to get the bike to the shed, and it took a bit more fixing than just pumping up a tyre or putting the chain back on. So very lucky to have a master welder near us to help us fix whatever it needed fixing. I'm not a mechanic, I don't know bikes. Joey's a well-trained mechanic, but he still was like, nah, I'm not going to touch that. And then you get to the end of the day and you have been riding for about 12 hours. It's a bloody long time. And you've got dust, wind, heat in your face, your ears are rattling. And just to stop, your brain still feels like that frazzled TV. So we managed to find places to stay all the way and just relax, because we knew the next day we were back up again and breaking down again. And I don't even think it ever got frustrating with breaking down with the bikes. You know, as a team of three of us, like a week or so in, you know, we had some frustrations and we sorted those out on a street corner, and then ended up, you know, having a few beers and it was fine. But that always happens when you've got 3 or 4 or 5 people on a trip. People want to do different things, and so none of these trips are ever smooth without problems. So it's either the bikes or the people or the place. Something always goes belly up, but that's the exciting part of it, and that's how we learn. The best thing about this was the guy returned. We broke down in the middle of nowhere. The houses behind didn't have anyone in them, and then this guy passed on a bike, and he said, "I'll be back," or I think that's what he said. And then he was back within 20 minutes, half an hour. His daughter was holding a toolbox on the back of the bike, and then yeah, he managed to fix the wheel, and it was actually something to do with the bearings that the guy had put in the night before had gone wrong again. So he managed to fix whatever the problem was, and it wasn't long before on the road again, and pulling up in the dark to another small hotel, and you know, we park the bikes in the restaurant, and then we go up, shower, and then have some dog noodles for dinner. And you know, the difference between what you look like in the morning and what you look like in the evening, you have been dragged through a hedge backwards and covered in oil and sweat, and we haven't washed our t-shirts or jumpers or anything. It's all still embedded in those shirts. You just don't really care. So this is morning, this is breakfast, and this was actually a setup photo shoot. I really like the road disappearing off down there, so I got the boys to ride down and then ride back up. And as the day progressed, we take selfies and stop when we stop for snacks. But a lot of the time we're riding, so we are looking at what we're doing, but you're just riding along, and then we gather together, catch up, and then move on again. The weather in some parts was absolutely horrendous, so it was hammering down with rain, and that made riding a bike for the first like couple of weeks in your life actually pretty gnarly. But we managed to get to a place called, I think it is Hoi An. That's what I'm looking at. Hoi An. This is where we are in Hoi An, and it's where everyone goes to buy their suits. And so we thought, we'll buy suits. And there's places to buy suits everywhere. There's market stalls everywhere. There's people pulling you in. Come on, come and get a suit. And there's expensive suits and there's cheap suits. So we went for a middle of the range suit. And these ladies were very, very sweet, very kind. And they won our hearts and they took our money. And we all had suits made perfectly for us. And this is Joey. Joey decided to go for a silver suit. Not even sure what it was made of, but it was silver. He looked like a robot. And so he bought the suit. We picked them up the next day. They're all tailored, so they're all perfect. And not very expensive at all. Probably like $60 or $70. And the next day we just folded them up, put them under the bungee cords on our bikes, and away we went. We carried on. And so from Hoi An to Hue, I don't know exactly how far it is. You go through a big city called Da Nang, and then this 87 kilometers distance from this point here to Hue is probably one of the most recognizable that Top Gear traveled across along because of this big bend. So if you've seen this big bend, give me a holler in the comments. Chris Harvey, you might have seen it. Chris Powell, if you're bikers yourself, you might have seen this bend. It's not actually the prettiest part of road that we went across, but it's one that as you round the corner towards the top and you look down, it's like, yes, I'm in the right place. I've not even looked at a map, but I'm in the right place. Obviously the ocean's in the distance, and between that there's a train line that runs through there, but with I guess the limit on my camera, I couldn't zoom too far in, so I was just collecting the wider shots, and it was a lot of effort to go all the way down to shoot and then come back up and shoot again. And if there was 3 people there doing media the whole time, it would work out better. But the other boys had cameras, but I was essentially a cameraman. So I love to just be taking the pictures, and that's why there's not a huge amount of pictures of me, but there's lots of the boys and the scenery. And then when we finally made it to Hue, that's when Joey left us. So 2.5, nearly 3 weeks in, I think Joey left us at that point, and he flew back to England. He was very sad and he was very gutted not to be carrying on. But this is one of my favourite pictures of him because I set the camera up in manual. I remember 2013, I didn't really know a lot of stuff. And I was like, right, if I slow this down, I'll be able to pan and blur everything. And so we kind of made it work. And, you know, it's a very cool picture of Joey. And so we left him there, and he flew back, or he might have taken the bus all the way back down to Saigon, where we'd just come from. And that's the point where his mind's going to be going, oh, what an amazing trip, and reflecting on everything. And, you know, it's a beautiful thing, but it's a sad thing because, you know, your mates are carrying on. So we woke up the next day and we're like, oh, something's missing. What is it? Oh, it's Joey. But we had a long day ahead. And so when I saw this sign, I was like, long day. It's probably not even how you say it, but it's how I felt. And we found a way to all sorts of different places, and we were just moseying along. We did have a guidebook, but again, James was sort of ticking off the places along the way. We pull over and we meet the kids on the street, and this is really the first place that the kids asked for money. They wanted money, and they obviously see a lot of tourists come past and chat to them. This is in, what's it called? Kibang National Park, and there's some really popular caves here, so they see a lot more people. And so these kids did actually ask for money, and I'm not into that, so I didn't pay them anything. You know, we just had a good chat, threw around some high fives, made a couple of portraits, and actually this is one of my favourite pictures of James with the kids looking across. And then within, so these 2 pictures on the left were taken around the same time, one in front of me and one behind. And then a bit further along the road, we met up with the guy with the Italian football shirt on, pushing his bike, looking after his cows. Further up the road again, I cycled. I rode past this lady initially, and then I thought, wow, she's super interesting. So I parked my bike, walked back, and had some sort of non-verbal conversation with her that allowed me to make the first picture. I showed the picture on the back of the camera, and then she was really happy to pose. So this is Vietnam's next top model, as she's looking after her cows that were in the field below. I think I'm most proud of this picture though, because I did it one-handed with the wrong hand whilst belting it along the road. And I didn't really have any option of framing. I don't even know if I actually double checked that. But to get my glove in, my key and key ring, the speedometer that just didn't work the whole time, and then the fella holding the roofing, I presume that's roofing stuff, metal for the roof. Everything's lined up. It's almost, for me, it's almost a perfect image of that trip. And, you know, I love it. So sometimes you just get lucky. Overnight again, watching Nat Geo on TV, putting the repairs on my helmet. So a couple of zip ties would hold the buckle on, which of course is going to work. And then we keep on moving. And every day we keep on moving, we keep seeing different things. There's not a huge amount of time to stop, although we didn't have set times, we still had a distance that we needed to cover. And so I took this shot of the ladies working in the rice paddies, and they're planting the rice. And then I actually stopped here, and I think James went on, and we agreed that we'd meet further down the road. But I took this shot, and I thought, oh, it's good, but it's not quite good enough. And I took it because I saw the reflections of the ladies in the water. And so I got a bit closer. And I love this shot because you get the church steeple in the background and in the reflection. Horizon line goes right through the middle, and then the ladies are working. And I want to show you this next shot because from this point, it looks like I'm just pointing the camera at them and they don't know that I'm there. But believe me, they were well aware. As soon as I parked on top of the road and stopped, they were watching me and waving. And as I walked down, they were very happy. And I was like, do you mind if I make a picture? And so taking this shot, I realized I was potentially slightly too low. So I just went slightly higher. And, you know, this is when the ladies turned around and were having a good time. So I don't know, my back would be absolutely wrecked doing that. But these two ladies on either side, you know, for a non-verbal relationship and me looking like a Wally, they were having a good time. But it's important that I love to show those extra images to show that it wasn't just a snapshot that the people weren't involved with. I like to try and involve everyone I photograph within what's going on. Apart from James, who goes shopping, and this is a typical shop we saw on the road, sells loads of amazing fruit, veg, Coca-Cola, because that's always good on the road. And these are fantastic, so we stocked up. We didn't really actually have too much space on the bikes to carry stuff, but we definitely needed a lot of drinks. And this is where we're getting up towards the top of Vietnam now, towards Hanoi, and the end of the bike trip. So let me just, I've clicked on the wrong thing, there we go. And these last couple of days were horrendous, and we did huge long stints because we didn't want to be doing it anymore. We were about 3 weeks in, which isn't a huge amount of time, but 3 weeks of mostly maybe 2 or 3 days off riding, 12 hours a day, and this day was absolutely hammering it down. So that's my hand on the left side, just completely soaked, and that's how James has been directing us. So we've just been following that blue dot all the way along, and you know, fair play for James for doing it. I don't even know how he kept his battery running for as long as he did, but you know, amazing to have technology to follow us through the trip and guide us along our route. But needless to say, we were soaked through and we wanted to push forward and really just get to Hanoi at this point. And so rolling into Hanoi, just like when we left Saigon, the traffic, the size of the traffic, the scale of the traffic, the amount of traffic, the size of the roads, it all gets bigger and it all gets crazy, and you're just like, shit, I want to be back out in the mountains. And so my bike basically cooked itself about a mile from where I needed to be. James had disappeared and I had no way of contacting him at that point because we didn't have Wi-Fi. We both needed to find some sort of Wi-Fi at the same time to be able to communicate where the hell we are. We did have a location that we were going, but obviously my bike broke, so I pretty much pulled off to the side, walked it through the rest of Hanoi and down this side street and into a garage. And our whole plan was we were going to sell our bikes at this point because we didn't need them after this. And it's the way it works. You buy it in the south, sell it in the north, and then somebody from the north buys it in the north, drives it south, and then it just goes up and down. So I don't know how many times that bike has been up and down Vietnam, but you know, it's a beautiful way to travel. And hopefully Poppy, my bike is called Poppy, hopefully you know, she gets a good ride back down. But this picture here, you can see the guys, these two guys are taking our bikes away, so our room actually looked down on the bikes. So I just spent, I don't even know how much I spent, maybe $20 or $30 to get it properly fixed up. And if I was riding it the next day, she would have been perfect. But it helped me sell the bike, and needless to say, as soon as those two bikes had driven off, it was a little bit of a relief there. I was quite happy that they'd taken them off, because it meant we didn't have to ride them anymore. And although it was great fun, it was also very, very tiring. So we spent a couple of days taking photos in Hanoi. This was one of my favourite of the trip. Again, just colour coordination, bit of technique, all seemed to come together and work very well. We took a night bus up to Sapa, so this night bus was 12 hours. We ended up watching a film on a small iPod, and essentially you lie in these beds and get clattered around the north of Vietnam while you sleep, or try to sleep. You wake up in Sapa, which is in the far north, and this lady is from the Hmong tribe, and basically you can do a tour with these ladies through the villages, and you can walk yourself, but it's much more fun to go with the locals as they take you through through their villages. And you've got all of the elevated rice paddies, and this is so close to China that it's, you know, south of China, and that's where you get all of the elevated rice paddies, and you basically, it's like the contours of the earth. It's ridiculous, and pretty hard to farm, I'd imagine. But these ladies were, they still do. They've got mainly purple hands because they dye the hemp indigo, which then they turn into all of their clothing. So 12 hours back, 3 days later, on the night bus back into Hanoi, we travelled to Ha Long Bay, and for everything I've heard about it, I think we chose the wrong trip. The trip was a very touristy trip. It took bloody hours to get there. We got chucked on a shitty boat. That shitty boat took us on a shitty tour at a shitty time of day, so the light wasn't brilliant. And we saw some cool stuff, but I don't think it was the Ha Long Bay that, you know, I'd imagined it to be. So perhaps I'd like to go back there at a different time of day. You can spend the night out there, and I'm sure that's a very different experience. But we were there in the midday heat on an average boat, drinking, not quite drinking, but eating fish and beans. And it just seemed like you were pushed around after having so much control over a motorbike trip to then go on a touristic trip like that. I think it was really just to tick a box. So that's why I haven't got the best pictures from there. And then it's time to pack up your bags. So we got back to Hanoi. We flew back down to Saigon. So flew over everything that we'd ridden, packed our bags back up, had our pho bo, which is beef noodle soup with some chilies in. Best pho bo I've ever had. And then we jumped on a night bus, and that night bus took us to Cambodia. And so that is where this trip stops. And I know it was a whistle-stop trip. I know we're flying through that, but I didn't want to hang around on, you know, too many of the pictures, because essentially the trip was about motorbiking, breaking down, fixing your bike, having a sleep, getting up, doing it all over again. And although there was amazing experiences in between that, it's, you know, they're very difficult just to explain for hours on here, and you don't want to hear that. You just want to see the fun bits. You want to see chains blowing off and all that sort of stuff. So what I got now is the video. You know, if you want to hang around, it's about nine minutes long, and it brings to life a bit of what you've just seen here. And it's almost like I'm almost like a reverse travel blogger now, because this was seven and a half years ago, and I'm just bringing it to life for the first time like this. So the video and all of these pictures were edited years ago, and I've just brought it into this new, this new arena. So enjoy the edit, enjoy the biking, and I'll see you afterwards, if you're still hanging around. Hey, how many girlfriends you have? 18. Joey, how was your ride?
Knackering. Draining.
Nearly get killed by anything?
Bus. Lorry.
Pig this morning.
Pig. Car.
James.
James.
Yeah. Whoa. Another full day riding, which has been great fun. I'm not even sure where we are right now, but we found this lovely place to stay. We've brought the bikes inside, so I think it's time to shower up and then, small child, shower up and then get some sleep before tomorrow. Ooh, I think it's day 6 today. We've just woken up. It's about 6:30 in the morning and we want to try and get a good distance today. I'm not exactly sure where we are or how far we're going, but it's a bit of drizzle. Joey's in behind me, look, putting his little helmet on. And James is already outside. So we decided we'll do a bit of filming today just to see what, show you guys what we're doing and how much fun it is. Woo. So first stop of today is fueling up. You want some fuel, Joey?
I need some fuel.
We need some breakfast too, don't we?
He needs breakfast.
Damn right he needs breakfast. So we've fueled up our bikes. Now it's time to fuel us up, and we're gonna have bananas and bread rolls for breakfast. Bananas and bread rolls. Because the last rolls we had, I think, were dog. Not keen on dog. Past 10. We've just stopped to put our jackets on. As you can see, it's getting a little bit misty. It's a little bit cold. I think we're really high up. A little bit higher up. We've just gone through a couple of mountains. But now it's here, boys. There we go. Off we go. Being followed by one of these buses. Gnarly road, man. But apparently the next section, about 40k of road, is quite bumpy. But we shall see. We shall have fun. And moving on. Okay, welcome back. That was a interesting 10 minutes coming flying down this hill and the chain drops off. So luckily we found these guys just here. These are very small ones, but their dads helped us fix it. And I'll just show you the mess that it's made. We're not quite sure where that oil's come from, but the chain's back on. And we're good to go, Joey. Thumbs up. Ready to rock? So it seems like we found the bumpy section, and we've been wrestling buses, lorries, and other motorbikes as well as ourselves. But it's been good fun, and Joey's behind me. James is way up in front, so we'll go down and catch him up now. Having a good day. Whew. Right, just to give you an idea of the terrain we're on just now. Hang on. There we go. Let's have a look. There we go, massive roadworks, some big rollers, a digger, bikes coming through, interspersed with potholes and lots of lorries. So we're having a good time and everyone so far is safe. Right, this just shows you that we're definitely putting in the kilometers today. We started at 6:30, it's 12:30 now. We've had our lunch break, but we're now on our second fueling. So things are going well, the road's good. Most of it's quite fast, and hopefully we don't get run over by a truck. So I'm just chilling with my new crash hat. Yes, it's the standard attire for anyone working in a rice paddy or generally driving along in the hot sunshine. Is my mate Derek. Hi Derek. I don't know if he's called Derek, but his name's Derek. Okay, so here we are, 10 hours of riding, three garage stops, a blown up back wheel, half a puncture, and a whole lot of bananas. We've had a great ride today, the weather's held off, and we decided rather than smash the last 80 Ks overnight, we're gonna sleep here and then get up early and crack on in the morning. So I'm not sure what the town's called, but it's a good one.
I think this one about G and Sony.
All right, that is me back, and I'm pretty sure I could have done with this mask during the whole of that ride, but we're not on the bike now, we're inside, we're safe, we're socially distanced. So that was as many of the clips that I had, I believe, this was edited a long time ago, that I put together to share this trip. I haven't checked to see if there's any clips further than that towards Sapa, but perhaps I think that was maybe just photos rather than video. But it was an amazing trip. You know, I would certainly shoot it and photograph it very differently now. I possibly wouldn't go on a motorbike, but you never know. Might be brave enough. Now I think I know how to do it. And it's one of those journeys where you learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself, what you can do, and then looking back on it to create something like this has been phenomenal to, you know, just to see how far I have come in that time with the way I think about photography, the stuff that I've done in between then and now is huge, and looking at the journey that I'm on with all of my Uganda projects and the future that takes. And you can certainly see a different style of photography, and certainly there's a big knowledge gap, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do or you don't know with photography. You point your camera at interesting things, and then it might not just be one single image that makes it, but you can put together a wee talk like this, and it shares the journey that somebody else has either done, they want to do, or they just enjoy the process. So we had a great time, and yeah, like I said, we moved on to Cambodia from there. So whether I put a Cambodia type talk on, we shall see. But next week, hopefully, if all of my Phase 7 things come together, I'll be launching Phase 7 of COVID-19 versus Uganda, hopefully this time next week or just before. So that's been a big mission that I've been working on since Phase 6 was delivered. So thank you so much for everyone that's tuned in tonight and listened. And if you've watched this after the live, thank you very much. Still feel free to leave comments, any questions about hiring me as a motorcyclist Deliveroo driver. You know, if you can send them to my agent, that would be outstanding. But hopefully for you petrol heads in there, Chris and Chris, I hope that you've actually seen that I am up to scratch and I could probably come out with you on a Sunday morning. Not sure I've got the right gear though. But it was a fun time, 2013, when all this went down, and you know, we've brought it back to life in 2020, and that's what it's all about. It's about sharing those stories. So hopefully you guys have a great evening. We've run over time, but there is no time, so it doesn't matter. Have a good evening, safe rest of the week, and I'll be ready next Wednesday cleaning my bedroom again, because that's what I do every Wednesday. Clean my bedroom, do live shows, then go and have some dinner. All right, so you guys have fun, and we'll catch up soon. See you, bye.